In this video, I'd like to show you how to format the content you're creating in your HTML box. The look of our website is centrally controlled by something called a cascading style sheet. You don't need to know what that is, other than we are able to change the basic appearance of every text box on our website in a very easy and uniform way. In order for that to work, we need to have most of our website created and formatted in a rather uniform fashion. So let's take a look to see how you can format your HTML content to follow our little guidelines. There are three basic ways to format your page. One of them is called paragraph styling or paragraph control. The other one is font control, and then you can do something called character decoration. Let's start with paragraph control. As you can see on our website, this paragraph is all of a uniform type, and so we have the ability to just call this a standard paragraph. We'd like you to, as much as possible, to keep your text in standard paragraph form. Other things that you can do is you can create headings. For example, we have up here at the top something called a heading 1, and if I look under paragraph style, that's how this guy was formatted, is heading 1. And you can sometimes see a shortcut to that. H1 is synonymous with heading 1. Subheadings can be made as well. I can make this one heading 2. I can make this one heading 3. When you go to use this control, there might actually be a heading 4. You're welcome to use that as well. So you can see each one is slightly subordinate to the other. So that's our goal, is to just kind of stick our headings as either H1, 2, or 3. The standard format is standard paragraph, left justified, using the headings. In addition to paragraph control, we also have control over the fonts. Here's one point that we would like you to try and really limit your creativity. And I'll show you why in here in just a sec. You can actually change the font. If you don't specify a font, it will assume the default font for the website, and that's really what we want to do. Font size is also something that we really prefer that you didn't mess with too much. It makes the appearance of the website kind of funky. Let me show you what I mean. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the font here to Garamond, and I think I'll change the next one down here to something which sort of looks like it should be okay, like Tahoma. And I'm going to change one sentence in here to, well, let's use Segway. Okay? If I preview this and take a look at what it's going to look like, you can see that the text is somewhat the same, but it's really difficult to see a reason for changing these fonts. I mean, it looks kind of goofy. You've got different styles, you have different kernings, and it just looks kind of crap. Leave the fonts alone if you can. One of the other ways you can control the decoration of your text is by changing its color. To be honest with you, we'd prefer that you didn't change the font color unless you have an extremely valid reason for doing so. It makes the website look very messy, and it makes it very difficult for us to maintain it in a centralized way. Having said that, there are occasionally times where you might want to call out something in the text, and change its color is sometimes a good way to do that. But please be very careful about that. Let me show you a couple of quick examples. Here, for example, I'm going to take this text and I'm going to change its color to red. And you can see it sort of makes it stand out, and it sort of calls, hey, warning. Okay, so that might be a good use of a color. Only in very, very rare circumstances should you be doing this. The flip side of that is you need to be very careful about the color that you choose, because some colors are really, really unreadable. I'm going to use this yellow color, for example. When you look at this, on most people's screens, yellow text is just very, very difficult to read. So try to be careful about the coloring of the text. A dark primary color contrasting with white usually works best. So red, maybe one of the darker blues isn't so bad. Stay away from the lighter colors, the yellows, the pinks. They're just difficult to read. If you needed to, you could also call out with yellow text, you could choose a contrasting background color, say this dark blue. And if I click off this, you can see it does make it stand out a little more. So the summary of this actually is we'd prefer that you didn't change the text color at all. Let's look at some other things that you can do to make your text more attractive and understandable. A very common thing to do is to want to insert a list into your text. You can do that very simply using this editor. Type your list in, 1 item per line, and then highlight your list. We have 4 things here that we'd like to highlight. And you can use the bullet list or numbered list in order to change the formatting. For example, here I'm going to use the bulleted list, and you can see it generated a nice bulleted list for us. I can also change that to a numbered list if you want to have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? We'll go back to bulleted. So that can help call out things in a very structured way for your readers to be able to understand what you're trying to say. Using bulleted or numbered list is a completely acceptable way to format things on our website. Another thing that we often do is quote somebody. And the standard way of quoting somebody is either to put everything in quotes or do an indent and a slight font change. There are 2 controls to help you with this. One of them is the indent control. To use the indent control, you highlight the text that you're wanting to indent. And when I hit indent, you'll see that it has changed the left margin, which is fine. And it also ended up changing the font. This is one case where we're okay with fonts being changed. Really, this is just quoting somebody, and if you'd like to do that, this is fine. To undo it, you can just highlight it, or actually you can just click anywhere in the sentence or in the paragraph and click outdent, and it'll change it back to the standard. Other things you can do with text decoration include bolding, italics, and underlining. You're welcome to use those if you would like. Have a reason for doing it. We don't really want to make the things too messy, but when you're trying to call something out, those are perfectly valid things to do. If you need to insert a table, you can use the table insert wizard to build a table. The table insert wizard will allow you to add columns or decrease columns. So I'm going to make a 3-column table, and I can add rows or I can decrease rows. Okay, so let's do a 3 by 3. In fact, actually, I'm going to do a 4 by 3. So I'm going to add 1 more row. So let's say I wanted to have this cell span all the way across the table. So I can click on the cell and it's grayed, and if I hit column span, it'll increase it. And so now my table looks like 1 cell across and then 3 rows and 3 columns. I'll show you what that means. So now I have the ability to put in a header, table of really cool people. Okay, and then I have 3 columns. So there we have 3 really cool people. So as you can see, that allows my table to have a rather unique shape or format to it. I can edit that by going to Table Properties and go back to Table Design, and I can change these later. So if I come down and decide that I'd like the middle, I'd like these 2 to be across. So there now I'm doing a 2 and a 1. So you can see how that changed. So there are various ways. You're welcome to play with this control a little bit. You can control the table properties. You can control properties for each individual cell. For example, I can do a little style builder here on this particular cell. I can change the font, the background, the border. So I'm going to put a border just on this guy. I'm going to set those. I want a solid line. It'll be, we'll make it extra thick, 3 pixels. And if I hit OK and then OK, you'll see that I've just created a border around those. So you can this is a pretty complex guy, but you're welcome to play around with this to see if you can get things to look the way you want it. And the last thing I would like to show you, and I would encourage you to use on your HTML pages, is the spell checker. Nothing more embarrassing than having a misspelling on your web page. It's up here in the upper left, and when I click on Ajax Spell Check, you can see that it has highlighted all the words it doesn't know what they are. It may turn out that, like, for example, FAQ, it doesn't know what that is. If you happen to know that FAQ is spelled correctly, and I believe that it is, you can add it to the dictionary. Be sure that it is a valid spelling, otherwise we sometimes will end up with very common misspellings in our dictionary. So I'll add that one to the dictionary. You can choose to ignore the misspelling, like in this case it's some file name, so I'll just ignore that. Chairman's Award, I can change it manually, and it actually should have an apostrophe in it. So we'll do that. So when you're done spell checking, you can come up here and finish spell checking, and it will pop you back to the editor. So in conclusion, we really like to keep this formatting simple by using standard paragraphs and any of the standard headings. Please avoid doing anything like changing fonts or font sizes unless you have a very, very important need to do so. Avoid changes to text colors. Avoid changes to background colors, again, unless you really have a distinct reason for doing so. Feel free to use any of the other controls, tables, font decorations, underlining, bulleted lists. All of that is just fine. With your help, we will keep our website looking professional and really accessible to everyone.